Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL Official, the Unofficial cast. I'm still your host, Alex, otherwise known as Lexi, go by Master on the internet, and of course I'm still joined by the illustrious duo that is the Hapgood brothers, Nishanize and Nymera. Obviously it is Nymera's birthday, so he is the selfless man of the stream for doing this for us. And Initialize, you seem to be sporting a rather fashionable mask that a mask one would approve of.
Indeed, and I have to say I find your lack of face mask disturbing. It's just this is what you could be. This is the kind of style icon you could be. Of course, we're inside. We don't need to wear them, but it's kind of cool showing off a little bit. And wear your damn masks.
Wear your masks.
Wear your masks. Your damn masks. Alright, all just do it. Gentlemen, we are going to be giving coverage of our 6th game of the day for the LJL. Our 2nd game of the day for the coverage. Obviously, round 2 coverage for us will be on Monday. Same time, same place. Do not worry. Gentlemen, AXIZ versus Rascal Jester. This is the battle of yet to pick up their win. Both teams have had, currently have substitutes in their lineup. Both teams have looked a little bit shaky in some of their games. This is going to be a real important point for both these teams, especially week 3. There's still a chance with a good run here you can make playoffs. So where are your predictions, sirs?
AXIZ have had a strong strength of schedule. They've played against DFM, they've played against V3, they've played against CGA, they've played against Sengoku. They are all top half of the table teams, and they are sat at 3 or more wins. That is strong. It is strong. And, you know, and to lose against those teams, it sucks for your game score, don't get me wrong, but it's not something that you should be completely losing hope about. So for them, it is proving that they are better than their standing suggests and coming out with a win here. Rascal Jesters, though, are different.
It is. Jesters are in an odd spot. They have had to pull in 2 substitutes, and it's replacing 2 pretty big veteran players. Vivid, in particular, I think, paired up with Art, made for a very powerful bot lane. And diminishing Art's potential in lane is a tough thing for the Jesters. I still think they've got some hope versus AXIZ, though. Specifically, I think Hatchemecha is performing better than Hoglet, and Hoglet has largely been worrying me on his champion. The Trundle looked better, but even then, he still fell down 50-odd CS in that matchup versus Lee Sin, and that concerns me in this meta.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Obviously, you have previously highlighted that jungle, mid, jungle, top duo. Obviously, both of them have got a substitute in one of those 3 roles. Obviously, that being top for AXIZ and mid for the Jesters. I'm really going to be interested in where you both think this game could be won or lost around.
It's really hard to tell because there have been so many varying issues between varying games for both teams.
Sure.
I think that Eunyan looked okay last game. Sometimes he's looked like a weakness. He's not really going to be a carry threat. Pink, if he gets Katarina, looked pretty strong. Apart from that, looked very weak. Galliardo, however, has been the playmaker for AXIZ. It could be mid, it could be bot, it could be anywhere, really.
For the Jesters, I mean, I've got hope in Cog. I think Cog played pretty damn well, actually, the last week. His versus Burning Core, his Wukong was sometimes the only team fight threat. Hatchemecha paired up pretty well with him, managed to get some nice, clever counter ganks using the bush versus the Kindred and that kind of thing. Did look like there was at least a little bit of thought, a little bit of synergy going on there. So I think potentially that top jungle duo of the Jesters could provide some options for that squad.
Okay, so we've got some options. Both teams potentially have an avenue to win this game. But gentlemen, I like to do this now. Let's rip those band-aids off. Nymera, who's winning this game in your eyes?
AXIZ.
Okay, Initialize, who's winning this game?
I'll risk it for the biscuit and put it on Hatchemecha. I'm going to go with the Jesters.
Ooh.
Okay, I am also siding with AXIZ as well. Can't let the baby team of the Unofficial cast a little bit go away. There might be host biased here, but I mean, I'm not casting at the moment, so I've not got caster bias, so it's okay.
The thing is that we put down these predictions, but if we get them wrong, it's still us at fault, right?
Exactly.
It's like, it doesn't matter, I'm just going to vote for these. It still has an impact on us, you know, like, particularly if you're in it to win.
Yep. I failed to find the edit tab for the last week's predictions. I went to go try and find it late, and I couldn't find it. It's like, well, I guess I just don't put predictions in this week. So I'm already like out of this game. I'm just looking for the good. I'm looking for the spicy predictions now.
We'll have to get something proper for spring 2021 to really get the predictions in. So it'll be on a nice little website or a web page or something for anyone that wants to follow along and make their predictions with us.
We'll send around a circular mail and you can fill in your fill in your thing. Yeah.
It's like
join that mailing list. It would be an awful idea.
It'd be very bad. It'd be very bad.
I was almost thinking like a physical mailing list, like they have to send us like a slip.
Circular mail, we just send it around. Next house. Get it back to us at the end of the week.
God, that would be really interesting to try and do with this postage speed currently in the UK. If my experience has been anything. Ugh. Wow. Okay, so gentlemen, we've got the rip the bandage off. 2 for AXIZ, 1 for Rascal Jester. Initially, let's get a little bit more of your thoughts on why you think the Jesters might have that. Is it just Hatchamecha and Cog, or are you more relying on maybe something wider that you haven't told us?
So I don't think that Unyan and Corporal are going to be able to punish Art and Nagi in lane, and Art will, once he's out of lane, be a bigger carry threat in team fights.
Sure.
I also just think that Hoglet has been seriously ringing alarm bells. Like, he got dismantled for 2 weeks in a row. That last game was the first one where he looked mildly competitive, which is a terrifying thought.
There is that, but AXIZ did look relatively coherent in their last game.
That is true.
The plays didn't work out. I don't think they were the wrong plays, although I'd have to VOD review to really have a look at that. But I like how they are all on the same page regardless.
Early game
that
special.
goes well into, if they come into a lead with the mid game, maybe we could see something.
Maybe we could see something. I mean, in all credit to Rascal Jester, they had some interesting games last week where they weren't a complete shutout in the first 5 minutes.
DFM?
Yeah, exactly, right? So there's definitely an avenue into this for the Jesters, but AXIZ returning to some form. Well, we know where they can be, and they can definitely rival any of the teams when they start to come on form. But maybe not in a best of 3 set. In all seriousness, maybe not when V3 is on a tear and undefeated. Gentlemen, are there any champions that we're looking forward to potentially seeing? We saw some spicy picks coming out, flexible drafting from AXIZ in that last game. So go on, Initialize. Go on.
I want to see Hatchamecha's Fiddlesticks.
Okay.
Bandaware, I want to see it. I want it in with the Wukong. I want Crowstorms and Cyclones.
I want Fiddlesticks Kennen, because I know Cog plays a really mean Kennen.
That's a good call.
Cog, like, he was solo killing. I think he solo killed Apperman 4 times in their second game of the regular split.
Yes, yeah, he did.
Three times Kennen versus Gnar. It was not so good.
I recently found out that Apperman's most played champion professionally is that Gnar. I didn't know that till just now. While we were in that game, I was like, oh, that's interesting.
He's been around for a while. He was there during the Season 5-6 heyday.
Oh, he was there before. He's been playing since 2013. 2013 professionally, and before that, he'd been on team since 2012. So he's been around for a long time. Our resident historian is Initialized, so...
Yeah, I believe he took a year out as well, and since he came back, his
like
champion pool has been a bit suspect, so that's been an issue for him. At least it's partly why we've seen him index a lot towards things like the Aatrox, a lot to things like the Gangplank. But last game on the Camille, starting to allay some of those fears we had about him. But he's not in this game, so maybe we'll discuss Sengoku a little later.
Yeah, Sengoku still will have another game to play. But,
so I want to talk about Arya, and he's not in this game. And have you heard about this mid laner that's really good? He plays for CGA, and I think he's the best player.
Opposite group for this week. We'll talk about Arya to your heart's content tomorrow, Nymera, when it's also no longer your birthday, so you don't get birthday rights. Why couldn't that be my birthday?
Well, CGA's next. You're fine, buddy.
We're just waiting currently for these teams to get onto that champ select. It does seem like there is a little bit of a pause and a break as in between.
So we get to podcast.
We do get to podcast. Only covering one game. AXIZ did look rather strong, and maybe they can get that first blood again. It'll be interesting to see. They had pretty solid rotations and map awareness across these early few games, and I want to highlight on that point that initially was like, well, Hoglet's looked very suspect, and the counterpoint from Nymera was... But the last game was pretty good, though. So, could that be a sign of maybe change?
I think the thing is when junglers are often the product of their team and the
Yes.
pressure. So, for instance, Ning in 2018, IG's jungler ganking absolutely everything. You look at the World Finals and you just ran across that game. It's really easy to look good as a jungler when all your lanes are winning. It's also really easy to look really bad as a jungler if everything's falling to pieces. We saw that AXIZ were K down, 2,000 gold down, just to laning advantages and stuff like that, even in that last game. And Hoglet still looked pretty fine. That still is a good thing for me. If he wasn't, and towards the late game, yeah, things had fallen apart. They lost control of the map, and you're also losing control of the map versus a split push global team.
Yep.
So for me, I'm like, okay, actually, Hoglet didn't look so bad. So yeah, it is one game amongst 5, but it's still something. No, we've got to hold that candle in the dark.
But I will hold you to the Silas game last week where he was down 5 levels and 100 CS and was like horrifically out-jungled by one. So
if you're gonna
stole his whole like top side of the map, destroyed his top laner. Like, it was not pretty, man.
I mean, at least if you're gonna have fun and play something which isn't gonna work in the jungle, just play Janna or something.
Hey, that's
Zyra,
me.
at least
I did that
Zyra
season
can
too.
at least clear. The thing is, actually, Zyra jungle's kind of legit. She can clear okay, so that would be like entirely against that. So you never know.
Well, gentlemen, we have found ourselves in that champ select, so podcasting can stop. Find us although on a podcast will be released on Thursday afternoon at 5 p.m. BST. But good luck to both these teams and gentlemen. As I always say, take it away.
Pleasure as always, my swan. Thank you again for leading us through that little podcasty section. And AXIZ will be on the blue side. Rascal Jesters will be on the red. I'll get to why I was laughing in a second or two. We've got to run down those rosters. It's Natsume, Hoglet, Gariaru, Unyan, and Corporal as the AXIZ lineup once more.
And for game 6, Rascal Jester will be taking to the Rift for their first time in week 3. It's Cog, Hachimecha, Pink, Art, and Nagi.
And behold the Katarina ban versus Pink. You don't give him that champion. He finds openings he really shouldn't.
He double killed the mid jungle of DFM.
Like, that's good work.
On his own. And after that game, we said, congratulations, you're never playing that pick again. This is why it is banned. First ban. All the other bans have gone through, and it is going to be the Callista let through for Unyan.
And we didn't really get a chance to touch on this last draft because it kind of went so weird so fast, but it is worth pointing out that Unyan put a lot of time into Callista. He was playing it top lane last split, remember? He brought it out for the playoffs. So this is a guy who knows how to play this champion, so that is good news. And it's a strong pick right now, so I'm kind of fine with it. And those statements I said about, well, maybe Unyan and Corporal aren't going to be that much of a threat versus Art and Nagi, that Callista could maybe make me eat my words.
And let me throw you this. If AXIZ are all on the same page, and even if it didn't work out against Sengoku, if they are still playing and confident in each other's abilities, having that Fate's Call just allows you that extra engage option from a role, which normally doesn't bring the engage. The Ezreal doesn't bring the engage. Callista does. Who else is engaging, though, is going to be Set, put in for Rascal Jester.
I also think the Set's quite a good takeaway from Corporal as well, because Set Callista right now is a really nasty combo. You throw Set in, he gets to face break, he gets to do all the damages. That just sounds like a good thing to take off the board.
Of course it does. One thing which is going to be put onto the board, though, it's not Legends of Runeterra. You don't have... Oh, wait, it's not going to be a Thresh anyway. It's going to be Renekton.
You talked about the hover. Why would you do it? I doubt it'll be the Zedlock him, but
so AXIZ are going to go for an elusive deck. They're going to go for the Ionia Shadow Isles.
I see. How does Callista fit in with that? I don't feel that Callista...
Shadow Isles.
But Callista in general, does that fit in really well with an elusive deck?
So you put in the Hecarim as well. You have all the elusive.
Genius. Okay, well, we're going to pull back to actual League of Legends now rather than the card game spin-off. I know, it's still going to be the Thresh lock-in just a little later than we were perhaps expecting. Natsume gets his Renekton, looked pretty good on it, and Corporal's Thresh hasn't got the best...
See, I'm telling you, Shadow Isles!
But we do at least see something of a good eye test out of the player. He does look pretty exciting on the Thresh. He's pulled out some nice mechanics on it. The last response, though, from Majestas will be the Ornn. Good team fighting thus far from Majestas.
The 1-item, 2-item power spike for AXIZ already is pretty insane. Unfortunately, you're up against the Ezreal, who has the strongest 2-item spike in the game, in that Muramana and that Sheen item completed. The longer this game goes on, when you've got the Ornn in as well, the more risky it gets for AXIZ to start fighting around and relying on their stats to carry them through. I like that Natsume is back on the Renekton. He looked confident on that. even against CGA, you know, he was zoning out even Arya and Gango, who are two of our most competent carries in this league, and he did pretty well on that Renekton. So going to be back onto that. He'll be versus the Ornn of Cogcog. Cogcog's one of our better Ornn players in this league as well. I tend to say LJL is not really a great Ornn region, so we'll see how Rascal Jesters try to prove me wrong. They are one of the teams which have gone towards this pick more often than not.
Yeah, and I kind of do want to point out something in the bans as well. That is effectively 7 mid lane bans have come out, which is just huge. And Pink has kind of shown us Katarina and Galio, and not all that much else. Possibly a Karma game, but I think my memory might be failing me.
It's not going to be Fiddlesticks.
So it's not going to be Fiddlesticks banned, and it's not going to be locked in. Hachimachi, you disappoint me, but hopefully your Lee Sin won't.
It's an aggressive fail me like your predecessor.
Indeed. Well, Blank didn't fail me in the last game, so succeed like your predecessor.
Succeed like your predecessor. Yeah, there you go.
All right, so the Star Wars quotes come thick and fast, but AXIZ have got some picks to make. And they're thinking about going for that. Locked in. Yes! I'm so excited. Remember, Fiddlesticks can be played potentially mid, actually, as well.
Tank can work.
And that was a barn hover there. I saw you there. No. Don't you dare lock that in, but he's gone towards the Tristana anyway.
I like it. So if you remember back to DFM's first match against AXIZ in the spring split, there was a Karthus Tristana duo played by AXIZ. They love to go towards their weirdness. Tristana had her E buffed in several patches ago and is really good at jumping forward aggressively. And he's going to be jumping forward onto Pink's second Malzahar of the split. I'm wondering if that's a very bad choice to make versus this aggressive mid laner of the Tristan. You can get jumped on.
I say the spell shield's not going to block auto attacks, and Tristana does quite a lot of those. She will rocket jump, ignite, and start autoing you down. That sounds pretty terrifying to me.
It does actually block the first auto attack.
Does it block?
Yeah, well, it doesn't block. It does. It has damage reduction on the first thing that hits you. It denies the spell effect as the spell shield, and the spell shield lasts for like a fraction of a second after you hit it as well. But it doesn't matter though. If you jump forward and if you auto and then you jump forward for a bomb and then the jump on top of it, you're still going to get a full damage combo as the Trist. The problem is you need to do that versus the DOT of the Malzahar. I used to play a lot of this guy. If you get an E onto a target and then you press the Q resets the E. So if you E, auto attack a couple times, hit the Q, you get basically a double cast of your E onto that target. That's where a lot of your DPS comes in. The problem is when you're doing that versus the Tristana, she wins that length of trade. She gets that full stack bomb. She doesn't need to cast after she's cast her E and a W really. So you get that silence on and it does damage, but it doesn't matter that you've silenced. It's not like you're against a cast or a rise or something.
Those are great for mechanics for the 1v1. What are the chances that it's actually a 1v1 when you have a Lee Sin who'll be looking to particularly hit them once that level 6 mark comes up, try and punish the Tristan who's playing aggressively?
There's definitely something to that, right? The Flash Malzahar is a well-known phenomenon. We saw one Malzahar last split. That was out of Pyrion from Sengoku. It was in a loss to the Rascal Jesters, I'm trying to remember, actually.
Quite possibly.
It potentially was. I might have to ask
production that wasn't the Nautilus mid game, was it?
It wasn't the Nautilus mid. It was definitely into a Jarvan, I remember that. But yes, well, anyway, we'll get back to you on exactly when that was played. We have a shouting man on our screen. And we're going to get into game sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and that sounds like this was, in fact, the match of the day for the official stream, which, of course, we can understand it is the 204 teams, these guys who are looking to pick up their first win after very rough starts.
Yes, and yes, I'm looking for that Malzahar game, by the way, production. Looking for the Malzahar game from Pyrion in the spring. We're onto the Rift, Corporal onto his Thresh again. And like we said, he doesn't have exactly the best stats on this champion, but the eye test was good. We saw them, particularly if you want to go back and watch AXIZ versus CGA. First game that they matched up in spring. It was just really fun. We saw Corporal catching out Grendel across the wall, full comboing him with a Jinx on his team and just running riot with that. Really good game in general. Lots of really good team fights.
Yeah, lots of fun stuff, but we want to focus on this game instead right now, I think. And Callista Tristana, with a Fiddlesticks. Well,
look at the go buttons they have. Yeah. Look at the go buttons.
Yeah.
We've got the rocket jump, they've got phase call, there's martial cadence, martial poise from the Callista, and then of course you got Renekton and Fiddlesticks, which just love to dash forward and do their thing.
Yeah. Crowstorm is certainly a pretty terrifying thing. Hoglet will be starting Wolves. You can do this as a Fiddlesticks. You take camps remarkably fast.
He's not doing the super clear though.
He's not doing the super clear, but even so, this will still be fairly fast, and this is doing it leashless. You can basically
he is doing it.
Yeah, you can do the super clear like this, where you basically leash multiple camps at once. We'll see whether he gets it exactly right. There we
Yeah,
go, using
there
the
you
Reaper
go.
Slash there to keep the 2 camps together. That is well juggled aggro, and with that Harvest W ability, you just don't go low.
So Hachimachi does a lot of YouTube videos on this champion about the first clear. Go watch them. They're up there. I think we linked them in our Discord when they come up. You can see that he manages to get that full side clear, a full camp before Hachimecha does. So looks like Hoglet did that about 2 minutes 15. Hachimecha at that same time hasn't even completed his Raptors yet. Going to be a camp ahead just on this quadrant in the jungle, and he can do a similar style of Super Leash on the bottom side as well.
Well,
Super clear, rather.
The super clear, where you just get to leash absolutely everything. And actually, with the pressure that AXIZ have in the bot lane, they might shove up and get a ward in around the blue buff that Hachimecha is nowhere near as yet.
There's no disruption onto this as well. The one downside is that, of course, you don't have any camps to fall back to if you don't have any time to spend anywhere. So if the lanes don't have any openings, you're just kind of left there going, oh, what do I want to do with this?
It's also worth pointing out that Fiddlesticks is great in that he wants you to level 6 as fast as he can and gets to farm and just get lots of items.
Oh, the flash forward!
Gary Aru with the solo kill in mid. That is critically important for this team.
He doesn't even flash forward. He just jumps forward,
Just
puts the
jumps,
ignite
you're
down.
right.
And this is what I'm saying. Malzahar does not really want to deal with the Tristana early. Now you're going to be there with a death being expended, teleport down as well. Gadiato with first blood, going to come back, and the damage is going to be there for the next reset as well. Going back onto the replay, okay, let's have a look. So Hachimecha is just going behind the tower there. Oh, the bomb onto the tower, gets the full stack charge, and just jumps forward for another auto, lands the rocket jump, gets the slow damage from that, autos in, gets the kill, jumps out.
Yeah, that's rough stuff. And Pink falling down early on in this lane is not what the Jesters wanted to see. Solo kill onto their kind of performing mid laner who's been having, considering the way the squad's been, pretty good split thus far. We've seen some good plays out of it, and this one worked out super well.
Gadiato, even in spring split, if you look towards their first 4 games, when they go 0-4 in spring, Gadiato was still the guy who was consistent on AXIZ, still the guy bringing out stuff like the Rise when no one else was and making it work to some extent. He was the backbone of the team when no one else was really stepping up to the plate. And in this early summer split as well, he has had some fantastic individual performances.
Yes, he has, and this is just probably the best for thus far. Manages to punish this newer mid laner. This substitute's had to step in late in the day, and that is putting AXIZ up to about a 500 gold lead. Very early in the hook lands. Corporal gets that one. Misses the flay, though.
Didn't want to follow it up there. Gadiato just putting the hurt down onto Pink, jumping forward every time that bomb's up, making sure he's low HP, making sure that spell shield doesn't have time to recover either.
And we knew that was a possibility. We called it out. We knew what this Tristana wanted to do. He's got the level advantage thus far. Pink now ticking over to level 5. Maybe once level 6 in. We can see whether Hachimecha can team up with the Malzahar to turn things around. So Flay lands and Nagi taken very low. The Ignite is down, but Uinyan also takes a bit of a health bar trade, and that'll be the summoner burn, probably for a recall from Nagi.
But what that means is that once again, Art is left in this 2v1. It means that now he doesn't have the presence to jump forward. It also means that just every lane is winning for AXIZ. And what we were saying about Hoglet, makes it really hard to look good when all your lanes are losing, when you don't have any points of pressure. And the opposite is true as well. When your lanes are winning, it's really easy to look good. Gadio has found his way to the bot lane. Might be a diving setup.
On vision because Nagi's going in and trying to turn this around. That's a teleport now coming in. Nagi taken very, very low and just goes down. The teleport is burned as a result, though. But that is still a second kill for AXIZ and the team.
They had full information on that dive. You don't stay under turret there, Rascal Jester. You get killed for it as well. You know there's no teleport on Pink, even though he has that ultimate in that. What's it called again? Not Malefic Visions. It is the gaze. What's it called? The ultimate
for
Malzahar.
Nether Grasp.
Nether Grasp, that's one. It's not a gaze, it's a grasp. Not even grasp the undying. But yeah, you know you have that ultimate there on the Malzahar, but no teleport, so it's not any use to you. Cog, similar story. Call the Forge God available, but no point fighting around it if he's not going to be there to influence the fight. They stay under tower, they get killed for it.
And the flash heal was burned from Uinyan, so maybe they can punish that, but it's still a kill in the bot side, and it is now a 1,000-ish gold lead for the side of AXIZ. Probably just less, let's be fair, more like 800, but that's still good space at only 6.5 minutes into the game.
So part of that is, okay, teleport into the top side from, I believe that's a Spellbook Hoglet. Spellbook Fiddle! It's run, Cog!
Spellbook Fiddle is a legit thing, and it's really irritating.
That's terrifying!
Yeah.
I hadn't even processed that.
Run, ignite, exhaust from your spell book, hop over a wall, pop
No,
them
I
both.
don't want to. I don't want to accept this as a thing which can happen.
It's genuinely, it is the meta build right now on Fiddlesticks. It's really ridiculous.
In fact, it reminds me back to when Spellbook Sejuani was played briefly by Tarzan on Griffin in the finals of LCK.
No.
Just teleports for ganks. I'm like, where did this come from? It's great. And where did Hoglet come from? He came from base. He managed to pick up some items, and he's going to trade a red buff for some of his bot lane. Well, Hachimecha gets caught out.
He's looking to try and get out of here. He's still got no level 6, though, so he's going to get a lot of damage.
Oh!
And that is the kill from Garyadu. Pink did not roam, didn't look to come down there, and that'll be just a kill onto the jungler who was looking for an invade. Well-timed roam by Corporal to catch that out for a little. But that was strong stuff. As we're going to see the Crowstall come in, and Pink now very, very low, and Coglet picks that one up. That is 4 on the board.
You could say, so when the jump had been reset by Garyadu because of that kill onto Lee Sin, you see that Hoglet's taken the red buff on top side. You can see him just sitting over that Raptor pit. Pink once again pushed up on the Malzahar. We saw this on his other game as well. Garyadu jumps in. The spell shield is not enough to save him. A second kill over to Garyadu. A first kill over to Hoglet. It's looking really good for AXIZ in the early game.
And this Tristana is 100% kill participation and is like absolutely a win condition right now. Pink is in trouble in the mid lane. Hachimecha can't move around the jungle right now because his Malzahar is getting nowhere, and his bot lane just got dived and died.
They just got dived and died. Yes, that is really, really bad. We are speaking about... Okay, at least the Ornn is even in that top side. Natsume holding even there against Cog. But honestly, Renekton is meant to be somewhat more dominant in that lane. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The rest of the map is doing just fine. We see a QSS. First item from Garyadu, putting that first amount of gold into the Malzahar tax. Pink used that ultimate before he went down in the mid lane as well. Not even available to make a play.
Hachimecha's found his way in here. That's a kick. There's the Q. They're going to get a face breaker as well. And Uinyan is dead to right. Art picks that one up. And that was a much better play out of
it. Was Uinyan not respecting where Hachimecha could be on the map. No Thresh there to save him either. First kill over to Rascal Jester. And at a much needed time as things were getting out of control.
They were kind of still are, because that Tristana is still a terror. Of course, the QSS means that she's not quite as strong as she could be, but it means that she's safe to continue doing what she's doing.
But the thing about this Trist is she has a 1.1k advantage in mid lane already. And what does that mean? Because sometimes you can just leave these stats and say, oh, well, what does that stat actually mean? What this means is that the Malzahar tax is her advantage.
It's invalidated. Yeah.
It's invalidated. It means that you'll sit here and like, Malzahar, Skarner, or Warwick, we're going to pick these champions and make sure they build QSS, and that means that they don't have the combat stats they normally have. Well, with that advantage, you're still going to have all the combat stats that you would have had if you were even, and then you also have a QSS on top of that, invalidating a lot of your champion's kit.
And Tristana, when she roams around, if she's free to just attack because she can't actually get there's no reprisal, then she just gets to take so many plates. This is exactly what's happening right now. This will be a second going down up here. Hoglet roaming up as well. I believe that is a Rift Herald taken by the Fiddlesticks on top of that. So this would be an easy first turret if they can get maybe half a plate more down. And they've still got 3-ish minutes to think about summoning that Rift Herald anyway.
It's also really cool to see that Garyadu is pretty much the only Trist mid player in the LJL. He played it once in spring, as we were saying, but we haven't seen it at all besides that. It works in a lot of ways which the LJL teams are familiar with. The Ziggs has played quite a lot here from the likes of Saros, Pyrion, that kind of stuff we saw in the finals quite a bit. As we're saying that, it means that these towers are always under threat. Speaking of towers, it is going to be the Herald put down in the mid lane, and we're going to see a lot of plays being put down. There is a response from Hachimecha, though.
He's here. Corporal's going to roam up as well. They're going to take a fair amount of damage, but it's a lot of people roaming up. Here comes the rest of the Jesters, and that hook was so good, and Pink is just dead. The Crowstone over the wall doesn't get all that much. That's a showstopper, but the QSS gets him out of it. Show is indeed cancelled. Now Cog in the front line. Corporal very low, but can't get killed, and that means that with the flash, Cole the Meek is going to be a lot of damage, and Uinyan picks that kill up. Hachimecha is trying to get something. Anything as the True Shot Barrage claims 2. That is a big win for Art on the back end of the fight, but it is still a 3 for 2 in favor of AXIZ.
Show's over. Go home. Everyone go home as AXIZ send Rascal Jesters packing. Garyadu is shut down, and it goes over to Art on the Ezreal. He's picked up 3 kills across this game, and we know what Ezreal can do. That's the caveat, though. All of the gold is going the way of AXIZ in these fights. We see Pink trying to save his turret here. Hachimecha makes his way into the brush. Important thing about this interaction, Corporal gets the Flay for the Aftershock before the big burst damage of Lee Sin's combo comes in. Then we have the Fates call to reset the fight once more, and Garyadu escapes the showstopper with a QSS flash. That's the only way you can escape the set ultimate. It doesn't just work on the Malzahar, it works on various other abilities too. We have Nagi kind of up on this top side of the map, making sure that Gallardo isn't going across the rest of the fight, but while that is happening, Natsume is running rampant on that on that Renekton. At least Art with the True Shot Barrage manages to clear up that last kill.
And that is big news for the Jesters. Yes, AXIZ are in a great position. Please don't get me wrong. But if the Jesters have a chance in this game, it'll be on the back of a 3-0-0 Art on Ezreal. This man has 1v9 games multiple times before. And that's good news. Hachimetra as well, finding some good looks in. It hasn't come out to an advantage, and particularly around the mid lane, Pink being 0-3 is a bad sign. But we are seeing some things out of the bot lane of Rascal Jesters paired up with the jungle that looks potentially interesting. It will be a 3v3 down here, though. Hachimetra and Hoglet both around. Hoglet has ult. That Q did miss from the Lee Sin, though. There is no Sonic Wave, and that might prevent any further action. Pierce does a fair amount of damage onto Art there.
It hurts. It is a very painful ability. No lifesteal there from Art either. Well, he'll have some in runes. Hoglet now spotted on that bot side. Hachimetra choosing to stay down there. We're speaking about Hoglet as well. For the first time in what we've seen this split, actually has a level advantage in the jungle.
Part of that is what Fiddlesticks does. Of course, he just farms like a beast. Do not get me wrong. Part of it as well is just good play around pressure early on. And there comes the Crowstorm. A lot of damage coming out. Hachimetra desperate to get away, does escape, but that means that now Hoglet is in a bit of a dangerous spot. But Tower does fall, and the Lantern got the jungler out. Nagi going in. That's a lot of damage down. But now the set's in trouble. That was a good use of the Flay. And it's a 1-for-1 thus far. Owen Yan dies, but so does Set. AD carry for support is the trade thus far.
It is, and a lot of tools used on either side. Art is still full HP, meaning that he's free to push this turret. Cog comes in. Very timely ultimate out of the Ornn. Manages to split that fight. Gallardo once again forced to use the QSS onto that set ultimate. Does get it before he goes airborne, meaning that he manages to escape that ultimate. And this time the kill goes over to the Ornn, not the Ezreal. So splitting the gold a little bit for Rascal Jesters.
Yeah, indeed. And we're seeing some signs of life in the team fights and Jesters, even if the skirmishes have kind of been AXIZ favored, to the point where they have got a 3,000 gold lead here. And as we're kind of heading towards 15 minutes, 14 minutes.
Natsume's gonna have to 1v2 his way out of this.
Yeah, he is. Natsume now in a difficult spot. It is Cog and Hachimetra. He does use the blast bat and slices away. That's well played.
Oh, that was actually pretty well. I think he got the reset on the slice and dice there too. So he manages to escape that 1v2, as we were saying, has himself the Phage, Merc Treads as well, meaning that Ornn going to be doing slightly less damage to him. Of course, Ornn does mainly magic damage.
He does, and with Blast Plants all over the Rift right now, it is, of course, an Infernal Rift. It's one dragon apiece, and I suppose now we've got a bit of a chance, as the Herald will be respawning in about a minute, to talk a little bit about item completions. There is a Blade of the Ruin King, as well as the QSS in now for Tristana. She's safe and does damage. It's Luden's in for the Malzahar. That's good news. And we can see Art is heading towards probably the Iceborne Gold on top of the Manamune here.
I love what Gallardo is doing, though. He's making sure that he's pushing mid, and Trist is one of the few champions that can get push against a Malzahar. That Malefic Vision's being reset, and alongside the Call of the Void for those Zarot minions coming out is very important in terms of getting wave control. But then, of course, Tristana doesn't need mana to push the wave, just uses that passive on the explosive shot to get Prio there to move into other areas of the map and force other lanes to respond. He goes into bot side, clears out some vision, means that Art and Nagi have to go respond, which means extra turret damage comes in from Urnian and Corporal, and it means that tower goes down in the bot side.
And there is the AI vote. The stats have given a 76% chance to win for AXIZ, which I can absolutely understand. It is a 3.7k gold lead, which is pretty huge. The one difference maker perhaps is that this Ezreal has hit 2 items. There is no transformation to the Muramana as yet, which would be a big point of power. But Art is capable of carrying these fights. Hoglet now walking into Cog does get the spear.
Look at that damage!
And that is a lot of damage.
He just half-health the tank!
Yeah, he did. There is no magic resist as yet. Hachimetra, though, might be finding his way onto Callista. Here comes the call of the Forge God. Nuinyan! Oh no! He's in trouble. The kick into knockup into a very dead Callista. The tower shot's pretty big damage, though, and Hachimetra might have to be a little bit wary, as Gallardo will now have free reign to shove into this mid lane tier 2. AXIZ will convert into a Rift Herald, but at what cost?
So it looks like mid lane's being pushed. That's one of the cross map advantages. Natsume pushing in towards that bottom lane inner turret for Rascal Jesters too. They're getting prio in both these lanes and will hopefully fall back for an Infernal Dragon once Earnyan spawns. Hook lands onto Nagi.
Nagi taking a fair amount of damage. There's
Crow
a
Storm!
on the tower, but it's into a Crow Storm, and the birds peck that one's eyes out. AXIZ to find a second as the QSS is good enough to get Gary Arrow out, but the turret shot means he's shut out. It does go 1 for 2 in the end, and that Tristana being down could leave things in trouble. There's a lot of ults down. Art and Hachimetra still hunting, but with this Infernal Drake spawning literally now, and the man advantage for AXIZ, they're going to claim this. Drake waits, teleport coming in. Rascal Jesters aren't free to give this one away. Cog's going to come down. Hoglet's very, very low. He has to flash away, and now he's in trouble. And that means the Jesters have now got position around this Infernal Drake. What is going on, Nymera?
But Earnyan manages to stop the Herald. That's also important. So one part of these objectives was stopped from Rascal Jester. They stopped the Infernal Dragon and will take that for themselves. But the mid lane outer turret stands for AXIZ. So some nullified plays on both sides.
Okay, well, it was a 1 for 2, but we're going to see the Drake go over the Jesters. The Herald was stopped by AXIZ, but Jester's not rolling over here, even if AXIZ are finding good advantages. I mean, that mid lane play was pretty explosive.
It was, and we saw the QSS come in very important again. Gadiario managing to cancel the Malzahar ultimate, jumping forward. Unfortunately, was hit by the Q afterwards and was silenced, and therefore couldn't rocket jump out before that last turret shot came in to finish the life of Gadiario. At least getting pink on the board with that 1 kill. Sat at 1-4 though, not a happy Malzahar.
No. He's not. Tristana is significantly happier at 5-2 and 4 and 30 CS to the advantage. Production potentially suggesting there wasn't enough mana there for.
No, it was a silence. Okay. It was because he actually, I believe he was actually jumping away at the end of it. Just
the Colorcaster has spoken.
I got my eyes on it. And
Gary Arrow here looking for the 3rd tower of the game for AXIZ. Jesters did manage to pick up a top lane tower earlier when Cog shoved it in, but that is a large portion of the goal for AXIZ thus far, is just straight tower leads alongside some of that CS advantage. But I think with the way things are going, we're going to see a few more explosive team fights before this game is decided one way or another. It's Cog and Hachimetra on one side for AXIZ for Jesters as AXIZ roam up to contest around that top lane turret is taken by the AXIZ squad.
My worry is that there's so much gold being injected into this game through objectives and early kills that maybe we're going to get to a point where Ezreal is having to face off against people who reach their 3-item spikes when he wants to be abusing his 2-item spike. He does have the Manamune and the Iceborne in inventory, but he hasn't upgraded to the Muramana yet. That's when things can really get nasty. And then you've got 2 items on the Trist, soon to be at 3 as well.
Yeah, we just saw that Phantom Dancer picked up as you were talking about that item advantage.
That's exactly why I brought it up.
And that is big news. Of course, this Ezreal is still strong. Is it 2.5 items himself?
Yeah,
when you get that far away from a Death Dance in the grand scheme of things, but probably 2,000-ish gold before he can complete that. And that is pretty terrifying in general.
Yeah, and Trist, just picked up that 2nd item, will be working towards the Infinity Edge 3rd. Art is in a point of power. The question is, how long is that point of power going to last against this team of AXIZ?
Potentially quite a long while. He's going to step forward and try and get some big shots down. That's half the HP of Earnyan. And there isn't a huge tank as the 2-shot barrage tanks as well. Earnyan feeling a little bit painful about the 2-item spike, even if it's not Muramana as yet. And there isn't a front line that can attack the Ezreal right now in this game.
Big thing,
really, outside of the Renekton.
Big thing for the Ezreal against Kalista as well is that you have Iceborne, and slows on a Kalista actually slow her attack speed, because it's a way to say, oh, you're being slowed in your movement, so that means that you can't hop as much. And therefore, if you're not hopping as much, you're not also attacking as much. The DPS goes down as soon as an Iceborne lands on Kalista.
So we know how that works. We know why Ezreal's picked up. It makes a lot of sense versus double AD carry and a Renekton as well. We're going to have to see whether it's going to be enough, though, because a lot of this game for the Jesters rests on Art's shoulders, whereas Earnyan's in a pretty good strong point of strength as the Muramana transformation comes through as well. It's the Tristana gold, though, that is the big factor in this game right now.
3,000 gold in the middle. 3,000 gold advantage. That is
ridiculous.
At 20 minutes, well, at 15, 20 minutes, something which I'll bring up a bit, I consider 3,000 gold lead to be a lead. And below that is kind of middling, really, because it hasn't led to any noticeable advantage in terms of stats and bought items. But when you have 3,000 gold alone in the mid lane, that's almost a full item. And a full item, that's effectively a Phantom Dancer over your opponent. So something like, 2 nearly large rods and then some extra gold as well. It means that your full burst combo, your utility is always going to be higher than your opponent.
The Jester's fight back in the last few minutes, though, has led the stat spot to rescind its earlier 75% win rate chance for AXIZ back to only a 52% now.
There is an Ornn in this game.
There is an Ornn in this game. There is an Ezreal who's definitely hitting his items at the right moment. So maybe Jesters can find a way back in. They are still down. There is still an Infernal Drake they need to fight for in 40 seconds. But AXIZ, maybe not quite as happy as they were 2-3 minutes ago.
No, potentially not. Now the Ornn items are coming in and will be available next level to upgrade Ezreal's Iceborne Gauntlet into that Frozen Fist. Maybe that will be something which Rascal Jesters want to fight around. Another thing they'll want to fight around is this Dragon in 20 seconds. Hoglet setting up for a Crowstorm, though. Look for the flank.
He is all too ready and out of vision for now. Hatchemetcha will not hit him with the Vision Plant. That is massive. Jesters could be walking into a trap.
They've seen him now. They've seen him now.
They have seen him now. They've got to be very, very careful. That's a Reap, and that's a lot of damage. And there is the Nether Grasp. There's no way out for the Fiddlesticks. He's knocked up and knocked out. And that means with the Infernal Drake life, Jesters should get it for free.
The terror of Demacia is that being terrified himself, put into just the worst spot, forced to gaze into the eyes of Malzahar. The ultimate coming in. Very important in that pick.
What is a Scarecrow before the Might of the Void? Not a lot, it turns out. That is not good news for AXIZ.
Oh, that's easy to say.
They're in it, no. That's 2 Infernal Drakes down. They are now facing down Soul Point for the rest of the game.
And you get what they were going for. You get that they were going for the vision play, get that denial into a huge wombo team fight. But if you take apart part of that composition with a timely pick like we just saw, it falls apart. The Malzahar comes in big. Hatchemetcha also leaping on the opportunity to finish off his opposing jungler as well. It could be the turning point for Rascal Jester.
Oh, well, that's a bit of a problematic point. Malzahar, even if he's down, is still useful. This Ornn has hit 2-1-2, has got 2 upgraded items, will be looking to upgrade further items pretty shortly. We're looking at this Ezreal, who is very, very strong and unlikely to get any weaker anytime soon. And Hoglet cannot face check that way if AXIZ want to find win in this game.
You know what else is in this game? There's a Callista, and that means Baron threat is a real thing. They put the spears into it, but a quick blue trinket from Art on the Ezreal will dissuade AXIZ from staying on it any longer.
It is, and it's pretty early into the game to be thinking Baron, but they definitely got the secure. I'm just not sure they have the best tankiness for it.
They also need to make sure they actually win the fight, because there are a lot of ways to engage onto them with the Call of the Forge God.
Here comes the Crowstorm, jumps over the wall. That's a big hook on Hatchemetcha. He just managed to get out, though, and that's pretty big news. Now Pink in trouble, cleansing away, but the bomb is down. We're going to see where the Gil. Got to be careful of the bomb, but now here comes Nagi into the back, and Hoglet also very low. Corporal trying to find his way out, but Art jumping over the wall. That's a hook onto the Ezreal now. Flayed the wrong way. There is the stopwatch. Can Art stay alive? But look at all the damage. The Call of Forge God's pretty huge, but doesn't land. Now Corporal's in trouble. Here comes the teleport. Nagi flashing over the wall, but Gary Iron gets Hatchemetcha. This Tristana trying to get out, trying to find the win. Nagi's still alive. Urian gets the kill, though. Art shuts him down, and now this Ezreal is a monstrous man and gets that 4 for 2 overall in the end of that fight. Coldcock's not even there!
And Art is as real as it gets. Cleans up the back end of it with his item power packs. I was trying to say the Fate's Call. I remembered that there was an Ornn in the game as well. And with now the tank from the Voidlings, the Death's Dance on Art, Rascal Jesters have fought their way in a 4v5 to a Baron.
I want to call out, I think Natsume was also in the box. It was the 4v4.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But either way, that is a massive win for the Jets. It pulls the gold much closer to even. It's only 1,000 difference. And with the Baron about to go down and a lot of turrets up, that is AXIZ staring down a very difficult predicament.
It's difficult because it's on 5 members of Rascal Jester as well. All the respawns came back in. Art is at a huge point in power and abuses it to the full extent of the law. We're going to see the replay from this. He's on vision. Hoglet still goes in for the Crowstorm. It's only onto one person trying to pick off Hatchemetcha, trying to get that jungle advantage and come in for a Baron play. Hatchemetcha kicks away Galliardo as he tries to land the bomb onto one of those targets, and then the fight has been reset. But who has the cooldowns to keep fighting? Of course, it's Art. Corporal is trying to buy time for his team. He leads the Lantern out. He has the Fates Call as well, but his team's already running away. And we were talking about them being on the same page in the last game. Obviously not right now. He does end up landing another hook onto Nagi, but it's just not enough because we don't even get to finish the replay where Art cleans up because we've got another dragon fight potentially burgeoning.
All right, well,
Just a
it's
minute
now
to
the
it.
upgraded Frozen Fist in inventory for the Ezreal. We're looking at a Luden's Pulse as well for the Malzahar. They've come through. They've got Baron to play with. It's a hook onto a minion. That's not what AXIZ were looking for. Hoglet, though, is looking for the mother of all Crow Storms. He gets onto some of them. That's going to be a shutdown onto Pink. He's gone down. Now, Nagi in trouble. It's a Haymaker that might not save his life, but look at the damage. Cog kills the Fiddlesticks on the back of it. 1 for 1 is the trade as Art makes it a double. And that's going to be 13-13 in kills. It's 2 for 1 in the trade. And with this Infernal Drake up in a minute, Jesters will push in with the Baron and look to secure themselves Infernal Soul on top of a big Baron power play.
The master of split combat, the art of war is back. 5-0 and 5, 3 items heading towards a fourth. Hoglet has a fantastic Crowstorm flank, at least takes down Pink, but you don't close down the Ezreal, you don't win the fight.
And Ezreal got out. It wasn't fear. That's why he didn't. The Crowstorm wasn't close enough to trigger the fear from the passive of Fiddlesticks. It meant he got to Arcane Shift away from the damage. And when an Ezreal with Death Stance
Is left to free fire.
oh boy, yeah. And Natsume is the only one who could potentially stand in front of that. But even then, not for very long. He's got a damage Renekton build here. Here we go, though. Gariel looking in. I'm not sure he wants that.
Oh, he doesn't. Not with the 2 people just around the corner. AXIZ are trying to team fight themselves out of this hole, but they are losing each individual engagement. And now it is an Infernal Soul point on the line. The Rascal Jester is looking to claim their first victory, and they're in prime position to do so.
Okay, well, that's a Terrify out of Hoglet. He's trying to walk in and find some space, but Jesters just don't want to give the side of AXIZ any entry into this Dragon Pit. Art's now starting it up. This could end the game. Infernal Soul could be all that it takes. We're going to see that's a big use of the Nether Grasp. Garrier has to get away, but still taking a lot of damage. And the True Shot Barrage!
Phantom Dancer.
Phantom Dancer shield saves the Tristana's life, but that's a lot of health down. And AXIZ is just going to walk away. They can't contest the Infernal Soul. Nymera, I think the Jesters might just have broken the game.
And we've seen what Infernal Soul can do on Ezreal. This is a huge point in power. Now you've got these items which are so very strong, and the Ezreal buffed up by those extra stats as well. Gadiadu has not managed to leverage his advantage on this game. He has 3 items. He's not found himself alone in a turret, not found himself alone in a 1v1 for the largest time this game. And that has been the story of this team of AXIZ in these first few games. Hoglet had a 2-level lead onto Hatchmecha. Now he's down a level. He's not managed to find those team fights, not managed to leverage his farm clear speed as well. AXIZ, with these individual points of power, couldn't close out the game, and now staring down the barrel of a very strong Rascal Jester's team. Look at that goal difference. 4,000 in the lead to 1,000 in the deficit.
That is a 5,000 gold swing, and it wasn't the biggest Baron power play, but that's because the Jesters gave up some pushing time to set up around that Infernal Drake, and that doesn't feel like a bad decision to me. It's got them Infernal Soul with 3 Infernal Drakes under its belt. With this Ezreal that it is at 3.5, nearly 4 items, this is looking like an insurmountable lead potential, just item-wise at the minute. AXIZ have got to find the mother of all engagers, get onto that Ezreal and kill him, and that's with Cleanse available as well, or they're going to run out of options.
Corporal misses the hook, stood behind the base. Hoglet was looking for a flank there, perhaps an ultimate, but he has been spotted. Trying to pose himself as an effigy. When you take damage, you know it's the real one.
Even if you pose as an effigy, though, you still get the passive out of it, which is the big deal. So you can still get it even if you're envisioned. That's why he still stands there. But for now, the shove continues. AXIZ, what can you do? You've got maybe a ward or 2 behind, if that. We're going to see a little bit of trading from Gary. There's the Crowstorm. Hoglet just disappears. He's gone. He finds nothing. Nagi goes in, goes golden. And now this Renekton trying to find his way out. That's a big buster shot, but he doesn't get a kill. And it's a double for the Ord, who can't be killed.
He can't be killed, but it turns out the whole team of AXIZ can be. Natsume sent packing. Gariadu found no angle, but Rascal Jester finding themselves Nexus turrets now at 30 minutes into this game?
Well, Rascal Jester's withheld underneath the force of Hitchcock's birds, but it's not going to earn AXIZ a win. It's not going to be the Tristana. It's going to be Art and his war on this Ezreal pick that destroys AXIZ in these mid to late game team fights. GG Rascal Jesters, they move to 1-4.
And there's no laughing now. Rascal Jesters strike hard in this game after an early deficit. To run you through the specifics of that game, we're going to take a minute to collect our thoughts. Be right back.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL Official, the unofficial coverage of the LJL 2020 Summer Split. I am still your host, Alex, otherwise known as Lexico by Master on the internet. Of course, I'm joined by the gorgeous Good Brother duo that is Initialize and Nymera. Gentlemen, it is still Nymera's birthday, so he gets birthday boy privileges. And I'm going to send it over to you, Nymera, for the first question. I mean, this looked pretty promising for AXIZ in this early game. Gadiadu was definitely performing beautifully on this Tristana pick, right?
Exactly. Solo first blood in lane against the Malzahar under turret. Gets out with his life. He only has to use the Ignite as well. He then roams bot, participates in a dive there, even though he was seen roaming down, just gets the kills there. It's kind of where the good news stops, though. We saw this early lead from Gadiadu not really extend too far beyond just these outer ring of turrets, in much the same way that you see a Ziggs sometimes stall out once those first turrets have gone down. AXIZ didn't have the correct vision, the correct macro to really just put Gadiadu into the strong points, and then they kind of just got outscaled.
Yeah, I mean, they got outscaled every moment there, and it was just really hard for Gadiadu, well, for Pink to really do much against Gadiadu for the first 15 minutes or so. But that wasn't how the rest of the map was always shaping up to be. And let's go to our jungle resident, the man that lives in our jungle. Initial, give me some thoughts on what you thought of Hoglet in this early game and Hatchemetcha in this early game.
So we saw what Fiddlesticks does early, which is come out to big early CS leads, and that was a big deal. It got the level advantage, got the level 6 early on. We saw a good crow storm over the wall to catch Pink out to get a second death onto him, or it might be third.
Something like that.
That looked good. That's great. Got them the first straight. That's good. They found the dive bot. That was good. That's where it kind of ended. The later crow storms weren't getting the fears that he needed. He was walking. There was one fight when they were setting up around Drake where he walks forward and gets picked off, having set up a fantastic flank position in the Baron pit, or not Baron pit, in the Dragon pit rather. That isn't what you need your Fiddlesticks to be doing. He can't be the one face checking. Get your Renekton to go forwards, and that was not good enough, frankly.
It really wasn't, and I mean that really highlights an important point on that. You mentioned that dive that happened onto Art, but Art basically became the Rascal Jester's man to rally around. They didn't kill him once this game, did AXIZ, and I think that shows huge amounts of where Art's power came from. Nymera, can you kind of run me through how Protect the Art kind of worked for Rascal Jester?
Sounds like Ezreal's a very strong champion. You put you put him on a competent player, and suddenly that player has the ability to just show them limits of their mechanics. Art was fighting from the backline, and as much as the Fiddlesticks is the diving jungler, he never, ever put Art under pressure. Occasionally he'd try and pick off Hatchemetcha, but the one time they were setting up for this huge play, he was picked off, of course, before that Dragon Swan, which turned the game, in my opinion. And then all the rest of it, Art was staying safe until the fight had already been committed to, and then could jump forward and run down people and just continue using his power.
If I can call out a fight in particular, that one around the Krugs at the 4 versus 4, where the top lanes were down in the bot lane. Art jumping over the wall, Arcane shifting away from most of the damage despite Corporal getting a hook, the flash away from the Fate's Call, and getting so many kills on the end of that despite Gary Arrow coming in with 2.5, 3 items, was huge. Just would not die, and that massive clutch outplay of avoiding the CC at the end of it turned that fight.
Really did turn out fine. I mean, that just kind of went the way. The dragon control was huge from Rascal Jesters throughout that game, and it eventually led to that Dragon Soul that AXIZ just weren't able to contest, right, gentlemen?
No, when you get an Infernal Soul on an Ezreal, the game has to be over, particularly Ezreal in this current state. We saw that happen with Sengoku's victory against DFM in the regular season in their second match in spring. Sometimes, even when your team is playing well, neutral objectives just overpower that difference.
Yeah, I mean, the first neutral objective before that was the Baron, which they then used to get all that push, and then they were able to get that Dragon. Just kind of was a tale of almost 2 games in one, almost like a tale of 2 halves, I guess is the correct term for this. AXIZ had a strong early half, but the later half was solely the Jesters.
It was all Art, all Jesters.
Well, yeah. Yeah, it really was, and it was just phenomenal to really watch the Jesters have a return to form, I guess, right? Sorta.
Okay.
The early game was not so great, but they did turn it around in the team fights very well, very admirably.
So we can see the weakness of some of the players, like particularly Pink in the mid lane did get abused, did get exploited, and that put the Jesters in a difficult space. What was impressive was the experience the Jester showing through. Cog had a stunning game on the Ornn. He was exactly where he needed to be, knocking up the right people. That's just experience. Art as well. Learning when to play around your power spikes, having Hatchemetcha path cleverly into the bot lane to catch out Uinyan's Kalista a number of times to do the top lane as well. That is just experience speaking and kind of buying time for your Ezreal at the point where he could 1v9 this game. So credit to Art, but also credit to Hatchemetcha and Cog for playing with experience, playing with smarts.
Yeah, and that's all she really wrote. Also, Art had that, what was the spell, the summoner spell we can get rid of everything?
Cleanse.
Cleanse. I knew, I was saying clarity in my head, and I was like, what does that do? That's not the right one. Cleanse obviously really does help get away from a lot of those other things. Gentlemen, that's going to have to round us out for the current coverage of the Rascal Jester AXIZ game. But returning after this short break, we're going to be covering Crest Gaming Act facing off against Rascal Jesters. A lot to unpack in that one, but we're going to have a short break and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.